As for the Samson option, that's actually real. I mean, I said before that if the United States essentially tells Israel, you've got to withdraw, they'll almost certainly do it. But they do have an option. It goes back to the 1950s. You look at the Israeli records back to the 1950s, when they were a weak state, not a powerful state. They did say, the top leadership, Defense Ministry and others, this is the Labor government, that if anybody crosses us, we will go crazy. That's the phrase that was used. We'll be a crazy state. We'll do something so wild that they'll be forced to do what we want. Well, they couldn't really do that back in the 1950s. But once they have nuclear weapons options, they can. And in fact, if you read U.S. military journals, you find analyses saying that the Israeli nuclear weapons are a threat to us. Not that they're going to attack us, but that they'll do something which will cause such, blow up in the world that we'll get in real trouble. Okay, that's the Samson option. It goes back to the biblical story of Samson, who, you remember, killed a lot of Philistines, and then they caught him and blinded him, and he was in a Philistine temple. He'd gotten his strength back, his hair grew, you've all learned this stuff, and he stood between two pillars, and he pulled down the pillars, and the ceiling fell, and he killed more Philistines in his death than in his lifetime. He was basically the first suicide bomber who killed lots of Philistines. He's a hero. But that's the Samson option. We'll bring the temple down even if we kill ourselves. And it's real. And it's a danger. The more we strengthen Israel's military capacity, the greater the threat to us. I mean, the former head of the Strategic Command, General Lee Butler, after he left it, that's the part of the military that controls strategic weapons, including nuclear weapons. He was very straight about it. He said the greatest threat in the region is that Israel has this extraordinary destructive capacity, which, first of all, impels others to try to match it, but also is an enormous danger in itself. So we may be shooting ourselves in the head by letting a crazy state develop. And the craziness of the state is not because the people are insane. Once you pick a policy of choosing expansion over security, that's when you end up getting stuck with it.
I was wondering if you could address the Palestinian refugee problem and the question of the right of return in terms of a two-state solution.
Well, there are some problems that are solvable, and there are others that, unfortunately, much as we regret it, aren't solvable. It'd be nice if it were otherwise. A two-state settlement can be achieved, but the rights of Palestinian refugees are not going to be achieved except symbolically. It's a horrible story, but if you think about it, it's basically a fact. The refugees in Lebanon or in Jordan, some of them could, under a political settlement, some of them could return. Very few are going to return to their homes. I mean, that's about as likely as Native Americans coming and resettling in Madison. I mean, you give an argument for it that it would be just, but it's not going to happen in the real world. And the Palestinian refugees, very few are going to return to their homes, which have been destroyed and taken over and so on. I mean, some proportion of them might go back to a Palestinian state, which is, of course, not their home and is very poor and so on at best. But most of them are just going to have to be absorbed somewhere. And the right solution, I think, would be for the United States to bring up to the United States. I mean, we have a large degree of responsibility for their plight. We have the wealth and resources to take care of refugees. So yeah, we got to do it. I mean, just as in the late sorry.
You think U.S. or Israel will go after Iran?
Pardon? I can't hear.
You think Israel or the U.S. will go after Iran?
Will they go after Iran?
Yeah.
I can't hear. Is he asking whether they'll go on Iran? Yeah. I think I better end at this point because I can't talk. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. And thanks to Professor Chomsky. And thanks to Tony Castaneda and his Latin Jazz Band for providing the sound this evening. And we are going to have a brief book signing, so if people would like to stay and get their books autographed by Professor Noam Chomsky and also Dr. Moore and Dr. Madison will have tables set up right here for just a short time.